Wow. The forest was silent, a silence sharp as glass. Linda, the Native American woman with honey-colored eyes, felt the ancestral strength pulsing in her veins, an ancient power that both frightened and fascinated her. Suddenly, a howl ripped through the air, unlike any she had ever heard. It was a cry of pain, a cry of betrayal. Jason, the vampire she was beginning to love, was in danger. But who would dare attack such a powerful vampire? And what would happen to Linda if that danger came too close? Fear froze her blood, as cold as the touch of the undead. The Amazon rainforest whispered age-old secrets on that dark night. The trees, gigantic sentinels, seemed to watch Linda with their twisted branches, as if they were arms outstretched to protect her or to imprison her. She didn't know. Linda, her long black hair falling over her face, felt the weight of the forest on her shoulders, the weight of her indigenous heritage, the weight of a power she couldn't yet control. The howl that had torn through the silence moments before, still echoed in her ears. An echo of agony that chilled her to the bone. It was the howl of a wolf, but a howl unlike any she knew. A howl laden with betrayal. Fear enveloped her like a cold mist. She remembered her grandmother's story, the legend of the werewolf warriors, the ancestral magic hidden in her blood. A magic that now, for some mysterious reason, was revealing itself, like a flame igniting after centuries of slumber. But why? Why had this power emerged now? She had no answers, only the growing certainty that something terrible was happening, something that threatened Jason. Jason, the vampire with dark eyes and a mysterious smile. Despite their differences, despite the fact that he was a creature of the night, a being of shadows, Linda felt an undeniable attraction to him, an attraction that both frightened and fascinated her. He was unlike the other vampires she had seen, those cruel and bloodthirsty beings who terrorized the villagers. Jason had a different aura, a mystery that captivated her, something that seemed to scream for freedom, even in his world of darkness. Her love, despite all the complexity and danger involved, was something she couldn't simply ignore. And this was the most important reason for her to face whatever came. The howl echoed again, closer this time, accompanied by a low, menacing growl. Linda clenched her fists, feeling the energy of the forest pulsing in her hands, a warm, powerful energy that made her tremble. She didn't know what to do, where to run, who to ask for help. She was just a woman, a Native American woman, facing a dark and unknown force that threatened the man who was slowly becoming the love of her life. Cautiously, Linda moved between the trees, her heart pounding in her chest. With each step, the sense of danger increased. The air became heavier, colder, laden with a strange metallic odor, the smell of blood, someone's injured blood. Jason's blood? Suddenly, she saw him. Jason was lying on the ground, leaning against the base of a huge tree. His face was pale, his eyes closed, and a trickle of blood ran from the corner of his lips. He looked injured, weakened, vulnerable. And this frightened her more than anything she had seen so far. The love she felt for him propelled her forward. But before she could get close, a group of shadowy figures emerged from the darkness. They were tall, slender figures with eyes that glowed like embers, and their claws were long and sharp as blades. Werewolves. But they weren't just any werewolves. They were different werewolves, more powerful, more dangerous. Their eyes shone with a cruelty that froze Linda's blood. They were the traitorous wolves, those who were on the opposite side, those who had been allies before. And the betrayal was in their howls. Linda watched the scene from afar, her mind working frantically. She knew she couldn't interfere openly, at least not yet. Her powers were emerging, yes, but she didn't yet have control over them. Not enough to face those terrifying beings. She needed a plan. She needed strategy. She needed a chance. A small chance to save the man she loved from certain death. And that's what she would do. She would save Jason, even if it meant facing her own magic, her own heritage, and the dangerous dark world of vampires and werewolves. The pursuit of love had never been an easy path. And at this moment, the challenge had become a nightmare. But she would fight. For Jason. For her love. Fear was transforming into fury in Linda. Those werewolves, with their cruel eyes and sharp claws, surrounded Jason like vultures around fallen prey. She recognized them. They were the Black Blood Wolves, legendary for their insatiable thirst and their boundless brutality. They were responsible for the howl of betrayal. Jason, so strong, so powerful, was defenseless, bleeding. Linda's rage was a scorching wave, as hot as the midday sun, breaking the ice of her terror. A wolf, larger and more imposing than the others, approached Jason, raising a menacing claw. Linda felt a shock, an electric discharge that ran through her entire body. The ancestral strength, the power of the werewolf warriors, exploded within her, like the eruption of a volcano dormant for centuries. Her body radiated heat, her muscles stiffened with supernatural strength. Her black hair floated around her as if dancing in an invisible storm. But she needed to control this force, to tame it before it consumed her. The power was overwhelming, and the fear of losing it, of not being able to use it, was a new enemy to fight. It was a risk, a dangerous gamble, but the image of Jason suffering in their hands spurred her on. With each breath, Linda felt the power grow, strengthen, transform into a sharp, powerful weapon. She prepared herself, concentrated, seeking balance between fury and control. Meanwhile, the alpha wolf prepared for the final blow to Jason. He raised his claw, ready to strike the vampire's heart. This was the moment Linda needed to act before it was too late. She closed her eyes, breathing deeply, feeling the raw power pulsing within her, as if it were an electric current running through her veins. She opened her eyes shining with moonlight and the intense glow of a new force. The ancestral power flowed through her, potent and uncontrollable. With a silent roar, an emerald green energy emanated from Linda, striking the alpha wolf with the force of thunder. The wolf let out a sharp cry, a sound of pain and astonishment, and staggered back, stunned. The other werewolves recoiled, frightened by the unknown power that had emerged from nowhere, the raw force emanating from the seemingly fragile Native American woman. Linda advanced, no longer with fear, but with the determination of an ancestral warrior. She moved with the speed and agility of a cheetah, her movements as fluid and precise as the dance of the winds. The green energy enveloped her, protecting and strengthening her. It was the ancestral power her grandmother had spoken of, the power of the werewolf warriors, awakened and ready for battle. But the fight was far from over. The black blood wolves were cunning and dangerous. They recovered, their eyes gleaming with new determination. They would not retreat. They would not give up Jason, their coveted prey. The forest became the stage for a fierce fight, a deadly dance between a powerful Native American woman and the werewolves. And at the center of it all, Jason, injured, watched the battle with disbelief and admiration. Admiration for his unexpected love who appeared to defend him, to protect him from certain death. It was a love that crossed the barriers of species, a love that transcended fear and darkness. A love that was only beginning to blossom under the watchful eye of the moon and the ancestral silence of the Amazon rainforest. Linda was fighting not only for him, but for a future where their love could be real. An uncertain future, but a future she was willing to fight for until the end. The Amazon rainforest whispered ancestral secrets, while Linda, the Native American woman with honey-colored eyes, felt the ancestral strength pulsing in her veins, an ancient and frightening power. The howl that had ripped through the silence before, a cry of betrayal, echoed in her ears, a harbinger of the terrible scene that awaited her. Jason, the mysterious vampire she was beginning to love, was fallen, weakened, surrounded by werewolves. Cruel werewolves, the black blood wolves, their eyes glowing like infernal embers, their growls echoing like a mortal threat. Linda's fear was a freezing mist, but her love for Jason, a burning heat that melted the ice of terror. She saw him, so vulnerable, so close to death, and the ancestral strength in her blood exploded in a whirlwind of emotions and magic. It was as if the forest itself vibrated in tune with her anguish, its ancient trees seeming like silent witnesses to the battle about to begin. Linda could no longer control the force that inhabited her. It was like an avalanche of power, a rushing river about to break the dam. She felt the emerald green energy pulsing in her veins, her body radiating heat, her muscles stiffening with supernatural strength. Her long black hair danced around her as if driven by a magical wind. The ancestral power of her lineage manifested itself, the power of the werewolf warriors, ready to face the darkness. The alpha wolf, larger and more imposing than the others, prepared for the final blow to Jason, his sharp claw gleaming in the pale moonlight. It was time. Linda closed her eyes, breathing deeply, feeling the raw power pulsing in her veins, ready to defy fate. Opening her eyes, her gaze was intense, radiant, charged with a power that transcended her. It was the power of her ancestors, the power of the werewolf warriors in full and furious manifestation. A silent roar escaped her lips, and a jet of emerald green energy erupted, striking the alpha wolf with the force of lightning. The wolf let out a sharp cry, a sound of agony and astonishment, staggering back. Stunned, the other werewolves recoiled, terrified by the uncontrollable force emanating from the seemingly fragile Native American woman. Linda was no longer just Linda. She was the reincarnation of an ancestral warrior, powerful and implacable. The fight became a deadly dance, a symphony of speed and strength between Linda and the black blood wolves. She moved with the agility of a feline, her movements precise and lethal, each blow charged with ancestral energy. The green energy enveloped her, protecting her, strengthening her, making her invincible. It was a desperate fight for Jason's life, for the survival of the love that blossomed amidst the chaos. The werewolves, however, did not retreat easily. They recovered, the fury in their eyes burning like embers. They were experienced warriors, accustomed to violence, and they would not be intimidated. The forest became a bloody battlefield, with each blow a cry of pain, a menacing growl, the clash of supernatural forces. Linda, however, was not alone. The love for Jason, the growing passion that united her with the vampire, propelled her. It was as if her own heart beat in sync with the forest, the ancestral energy flowing without stopping, without hesitation. Each of her movements was precise, each blow charged with an unshakable force. It was the force of love that propelled and protected her, a force as powerful as ancestral magic. Every second, the fight intensified. The forest became a witness to an epic battle between good and evil, between love and betrayal. Jason's fate, the fate of the love between him and Linda, hung by a thread. The final battle was only beginning, and only time would reveal who would prevail in this bloody duel full of magic, power, and a love capable of defying death itself. The pursuit of love in the bloody battle was reaching its peak, in a visceral, ferocious fight charged with an ancestral magic that illuminated the darkness of the Amazon rainforest. The climax of the battle was about to happen, the final decision. Suddenly, a deafening roar cut through the air. The earth trembled beneath Linda's feet, and a gigantic figure emerged from the shadows of the forest, as tall as an ancient tree. It was a colossal werewolf, unlike any other, with eyes red as embers and fangs so long they looked like daggers. His body emanated an aura of frightening power, a malevolent and ancient power that even the black blood wolves seemed to fear. This was the Alpha, the supreme leader of all werewolves, the legendary being who controlled the others, who led them. His arrival changed the dynamics of the fight, freezing the action. Everyone, including Linda, felt trapped by the imposing and menacing presence of the Alpha. Linda, despite the fear that chilled her to the bone, felt an unknown force enveloping her. The ancestral power in her veins boiled, intensifying. She wasn't just fighting for Jason's survival, but for the survival of everyone, for the survival of her own people, her indigenous people who had been hiding for so long. And she knew, deep down, that only the strength of her ancestry could protect her people, her love, and herself. The Alpha growled, a deep sound that shook the trees around. His red eyes fixed on Linda, and a cruel smile, full of presumption, spread across his lips. He raised a huge claw, so sharp that it gleamed in the moonlight. He was ready to attack. Linda prepared herself. She knew that this was not an enemy she could easily defeat. He was an ancient, powerful being, a being of ancestral legends, full of power and cruelty. He was the personification of danger. And she, a simple Native American woman, had to face him alone to save her beloved vampire. But before she could react, before she could even concentrate the ancestral power that inhabited her, a shadow fell upon the Alpha. A tall and imposing figure emerged from the shadows, a figure as fast as lightning. Another vampire, but not just any vampire. He was a different vampire, larger and more powerful than any Linda had ever seen, a being covered in an aura of death and darkness. His eyes shone with a red intensity, as red as the Alpha's eyes. The new vampire, with a swift movement, grabbed the Alpha's arm, throwing him to the ground with brutal force. The fight between them was quick and silent. A deadly dance of claws and teeth, a titanic confrontation between two supernatural forces. It was a fight so fierce that even the forest seemed to hold its breath. Linda stood paralyzed, watching the scene with astonishment and disbelief. Who was that vampire? Where had he come from? And what was his goal? Was he there to help Jason or to further complicate the situation? The question sprang to her mind, confusing her. The fight ended as suddenly as it began. The new vampire, with a cruel and merciless gesture, plunged his fangs into the alpha's neck, sucking his life force. The alpha's body became small, weak, until it turned to dust. The powerful vampire turned to Linda, his penetrating gaze analyzing every detail on her face. Then, a mysterious smile spread across his lips, a smile that filled Linda with uncertainty. "You have incredible power, Native American woman," said the vampire, his voice as soft as the wind, "and I know what you seek." He extended his hand towards Linda with a mysterious look, a smile that hid the truth. "You are in danger, much more than you imagine. I can help you, but there is a price." And at that moment, the vampire's smile became sinister, revealing a cold gleam in his eyes. The smile of someone who knew a secret so terrible that it could change the course of everyone's lives forever. What secret would that be? What price would Linda have to pay? And who, after all, was this mysterious vampire? The forest fell silent, a heavy and threatening silence, laden with mystery, as Linda found herself face to face with a new and frightening enemy.